Hello and welcome to Lynchburg Live. I'm your host, Linda Smith. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and tonight's show is dedicated to the memory of Cathy Touna. My guests tonight are Oncology Nurse Practitioner Cathy Kennedy and Lynchburg College Professor of Nursing Ellen DeLuca. Together, they've been involved in an ongoing breast cancer survivorship study, and they're going to be telling us tonight about what's involved with that. Cathy, Ellen, Cathy. Sorry, I did that wrong. All right. Welcome to Lynchburg Live.
We're happy to be here.
Yeah. You know, as we begin, and either one of you can answer these questions, but would you tell our audience what you do for a living? And we'll get both of you.
I'm a professor at Lynchburg College in the nursing department, and I've been there about 16 and a half years.
And I am a nurse practitioner at Radiation Oncology, and I've been there about 13 years.
Now, besides the obvious fact that you're both registered nurses, do either of you have any personal relationship with breast cancer that might have made you more interested in getting involved in a study like this?
I've had two friends that had breast cancer, and I work with women with breast cancer. I see them on a daily basis at the office. So you build up a relationship as you hear the stories. So, but personally, two friends.
And I'm a survivor of 25 years, as you know.
Yep.
And I also, my grandmother also died of breast cancer. And I guess like Cathy, I also have friends, all of whom are doing well right now. But, you know, it's out there.
You know, I think, Ellen, that people like you who have a long history of survivorship are such inspirations to those of us, you know, who are newer. Because breast cancer is no longer a death sentence, and I think that people need to be aware of that. And I think being aware of it takes some of the fear out of going for mammograms and doing that sort of thing that women are so afraid of.
Right.
All right, so several years ago, the two of you started a fairly extensive study dealing with breast cancer. Were you friends before you started doing this?
We were acquaintances. We knew each other at least 20 years through ONS, Oncology Nursing Society meetings. And then we'd done community service together, and we've also put together some health patient educational discussions.
What made you decide to to think of doing something like this? I think it's a wonderful idea.
I invited Cathy.
Yeah. That's right.
I knew Cathy was passionate about survivorship, and she had given a talk for us at Lynchburg College, and I had gotten to know her through our activities, so I knew that she had a dedication, and I just thought she would be a great person to work with.
All right, in the beginning, do you want to just say what your study is about instead of just sitting here and I keep saying a study? So.
Well, I had the idea for the study because as a survivor, initially after I finished my treatment, I was pretty young. I was 40, and I felt like it was a pretty turbulent time. Right. And it is after treatment. I think most women experience that after having chemotherapy, hot flashes, and different things. And I felt like even though there was literature out there about how to get through the experience, there wasn't much on after the treatment's over. So I felt like, then I realized after a few more years, hey, I'm feeling better. It would be good to do something for women, helping them see that it does, for most people, get better after a time, and I wanted to share that. So I think that's why we wanted to interview people who were, those who had completed treatment and maybe were in an early period, but also people who had been surviving for a few years.
Right. So you began this study when?
Well, Ellen initially started.
Yeah, I actually did a pilot study starting in 2006 looking at younger women. Well, I thought it was going to be the study, but I couldn't get enough women, so it turned out to be a pilot. And then in 2009, I realized that we needed to broaden our participants, and so that's when we began this study.
Right. And I came on board and we interviewed another 25 women.
And you certainly
So-
have access
Yes.
to
yes.
women.
Yeah.
And that's how I met you. And Ellen, I had you on a show before talking about a study that had happened. New guidelines had come out by the government, a
That's
government
right,
study,
yeah.
and I was very upset about what they had said to do. So that's how I met Ellen. So, so anyway, how many women are in this study?
We've spoken to a total of 30 with the initial 5 and then the 25. And the discussions are about how they felt when they were diagnosed, what kind of treatment they went through, and what kind of issues they had during treatment.
Now, how did you approach these people about being in the study? I mean, for me, I'm delighted to be part of something like this simply because I feel like anything, if something I say helps another woman, then that's great. But I do know that there are some people who are survivors who would just rather pretend that it didn't happen, just to move on with their life like that was not a part of it. So how did you?
Well, we actually, there were some people we knew, like you. I probably knew more people. And then what we did, and I guess this was helpful, is to put flyers in a few oncology clinics, including Cathy's, so people had the option. So if they saw the flyer, undoubtedly they'd call us or they'd call Cathy or ask Cathy when they saw her about the study. So, that's...
So
and then some of the nurses in the oncology clinic helped us as well to kind of encourage, a little bit.
So people who really wanted to
Yeah, people who
participate
really
are
wanted to.
your
Right.
participants.
Yeah.
Right.
And how many did you say you had? 25?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Are the women in this study who are survivors, are they all types of women, and I mean all types and stages of breast cancer, or is it just one particular type of breast cancer? Or
Well, there's 2 main types there's actually one main type of breast cancer, but there's numerous breast cancers. And so we interviewed women with all different types of breast cancer and all different stages, from very small, non-aggressive early breast cancer to larger breast cancers or more aggressive breast cancers. And some of the women had positive lymph nodes under their arm, when they were diagnosed.
Right.
We actually interviewed maybe, I think, one woman with what's called a non-invasive breast cancer. People probably heard of it as DCIS.
Right.
But yeah, all different. No women with metastatic disease, with breast cancer that had moved to a different organ.
right. All right. Had some of them had mastectomies, or were all of them breast conserving surgery?
No, they were all different treatments. We had all women receive surgery of some type,
Right.
whether it's a lumpectomy or a mastectomy. And we interviewed both. A lot of the women received chemotherapy, and a lot of the women received radiation therapy, which is where I play a role in that. And then some of the women that had mastectomies have had reconstructive surgery. So it's varies, all different disciplines.
I was going to say, with the broadness of the number of women that you have talked to, that must make the study more interesting.
I think so. I think when I first started with the younger women, I thought, oh, these are the people that really have the problems. Those older women probably don't have any problems. But I was totally wrong on that. I was really, really wrong. I mean, it's everyone has different issues, and it affects people of all ages, even if they have a very small, non-invasive breast cancer.
And some people receive both chemo and radiation. Is that true?
Oh, yes.
So,
and
so
some people receive surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation.
So it's just a broad group of women. What about the age range?
The youngest during the time of interview was 31, and the oldest was 78 at the time of interview.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
I mean, I just think it's
Yeah.
wonderful
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if you put this information together, women of all ages are going to be benefiting from this, or it seems to me, which makes me want to bring up someone that's in your study who was diagnosed when she was in her early 30s and had 8 out of 11 lymph nodes that were positive. And she just celebrated her 7th year as a survivor last week or week before last. And you know, that's incredible, and I think that's the kind of information that people who are struggling with going through it right now, you know,
Right.
just having recently been diagnosed, they need to know, you know, that there's so much out there that can help them.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so how about socioeconomic backgrounds? Are these people from different education levels?
Yeah, we didn't actually get that information in terms of socioeconomic, but definitely we did collect demographic data on education, and we do have you know, a fair number of African American women as well as Caucasian women. So I feel like that made it a little bit diverse. Yeah.
How do you follow and track these people? How often do you contact them?
We followed them via phone or email, and sometimes meeting in person.
And an
you know,
occasional
like
lunch.
Yeah, an occasional
Right.
lunch. There's some people that really want to meet, so if you call, they'll say, let's meet. So we did let, you know, at least a year go by before, in some cases, longer than that. So,
Right.
yeah.
How long do you plan to continue this study?
I think we're done.
We're finished. Yeah, we're finished.
Yeah.
All right. What do you plan to do with this vast amount of accumulated knowledge that you have? And what are you doing with it right this minute?
Well, we hope to get a journal publishment in a nursing professional journal. That would be optimal. And Ellen actually has started a blog. And the name of it is Putting Breast Cancer in the Rearview Mirror. And then our goal is to write a book, which we are
In progress.
in
Great.
progress, yes.
In progress. And I think we can mention we have a great editor in Nancy Young, who's been active in MAM, and she's having a great time editing our book.
And ma'am is?
Oh, yeah, you
What?
have to explain that.
Yeah. Well, what are the initials? Do you know what it means? I know that it supports mammography for
Right.
all women.
Women, right.
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 So there's probably MAAM. You caught us there.
Oh, I'm sorry. That just came out of
But
my
we
head.
know what the purpose is. Yeah.
Right.
All right, sort of back to the study. I've read, and a friend of mine was actually doing a thesis on this subject, that a lot of marriages are impacted negatively when the woman goes through breast cancer, the experience and the treatment. What did you find out from your study with that?
Well, I think what we found is that really strong marriages get stronger. Husbands are really supportive and find their husbands wonderful, their spouses. And weaker marriages suffer. You know, we can't say the number of marriages exactly that it's because of the breast cancer that, you know, the couple split.
Right.
But about 20% of the women that we interviewed ended up divorced or separated. But I think I was thinking about exactly what caused it, or did we get any information about that. I think in terms of only 3 cases did we really get information from the women who shared that. I'd say generally they felt that they wanted to be happier after having gone through breast cancer. So I guess in a couple cases it was the woman's decision. At least in one case it wasn't her, you know, maybe 2 cases it wasn't her decision. You know, it was the spouse who couldn't handle it, especially in the case of you know, a younger person.
Do you think that's because of having mastectomies or having a little disfigurement of the breast, or I mean, I don't understand the thinking behind that with men, but something often we don't understand men, so it might.
My suspect, talking to women in the office, would be it's change. Change causes stress.
Right.
And sometimes it would make the bonds improved, and sometimes.
Some women also resist, sexual encounters after. We've talked to some women who felt like they weren't comfortable, and that may have something to do with it.
It's just a lot of stuff that goes on with a survivor, I think.
And sometimes it's the spouse not understanding what some of the after effects might be, like the fatigue, things like that.
And the medications.
And the medications.
Because the medications, they're responsible for so many side effects. The Arimidex, tamoxifen, that kind of thing that you're on for 5 years. And I think now the studies show that you should be on that for 10 years. Is that correct?
7, and now they've gone to 10, and some of the studies are saying the longer the better, the improved outcomes.
So there's a lot to deal with, and I guess if you have a marriage that's not solid to begin with, then that's just one more thing thrown into the mix of trying to deal with. So my next question was going to be, how, sort of generally, has the breast cancer experience impacted the women in your study as they go on with their daily lives?
I think that women are generally able to, get back into a normal schedule. Some things change, maybe especially initially if they're a little fatigued, they may exercise differently or rest more, or several women change jobs because they found that the jobs that they were in were just a little bit too busy for them, and they made some adjustments. But generally they're all kind of looking to the future and looking at some of the things they want to change. What things have I never done before that I want to do now, like have a TV show
or write a book,
go on a vacation, things like that. People they're kind of putting their bucket list up front, rather than waiting.
Yeah, for me, it just occurred to me that all these things I thought I might want to do, you're not guaranteed a second chance, and you really should go ahead and do them. And something I might have been embarrassed to try, I'm not embarrassed to try anything anymore. Because if I don't try, I won't know if I can do something. And I think probably that does come into it with women.
I think also more me time, more putting yourself first.
Right. Now, have most women in your study been able to resume their normal activities? I mean, we know we're talking about these women who are the exception, but just women who go back into their normal lives, are they able to do that fairly successfully?
2 of the women particularly I would think of that had lifting. They have lifting in their jobs. One woman works in daycare. Both of them do lifting, and both of them had significant number of lymph nodes removed, which puts both were right side breast cancers. So it put them, because they're right side dominant, at risk to have some swelling. So they've made modifications to their activities, but they're both back at their work because they enjoy their work, and they've just modified how they lift.
I think one of the things that came home to me is that you really don't have a bunch of choices. You either go on with your life and make it the best you can, or you just sort of stick yourself and stagnate, or don't realize your potential. So, have any of the women that you've interviewed taken a decidedly different path from?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I think sometimes people want to, but because of the economy, I think a lot of women volunteer. I think that's one of the things that they do outside of most many of them go back to their original jobs, wouldn't you say? But they do more volunteering and get involved a little bit in breast cancer efforts.
Right.
You know, they try to do that. I'm trying. You're actually the most outlier in terms of doing something really different, going from being an OR nurse to a TV personality. I mean, yeah. So, I think
there are two other
yeah.
women that made a complete career change.
Yeah.
One became a nurse who wasn't a nurse prior to.
Right.
And I think
one became a novelist.
okay.
She
Wonderful.
retired from a teaching position, a nursing, you know, she was a nursing professor, and she retired and now she writes novels.
You know, I think some of it is women just want to give back.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
if you come through it successfully, you want to try to make it easier for other women coming along. It's,
I think so. I think several of the women felt very passionate about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
They're very generous with sharing their experiences with other women. Which
And
is,
some women have said they think that that's why they had breast cancer, so they could share, you know, especially African American women, you know, are involved in their communities and they're involved in the Witness Project. Several
Right.
in the Witness Project have been amazing in terms of going to their churches and whatever.
now, have any of the women that you followed had recurrences?
no, none of the women have
Wonderful.
had recurrences. Yes.
That's
Two of the women have had new breast cancers.
Oh.
And women are at risk of that. One of the women, another woman, actually presented, and that was about 2 years ago, with an unusual shoulder pain, which alerted us because she had had positive lymph nodes.
Right.
So the good thing is, after all the scans, the shoulder pain was arthritis.
That's great.
So, yeah, it's great, but she has to deal with the arthritis.
Right. But she still may not have found the new cancer had it not been for the shoulder pain.
Right, but she doesn't have it. That was negative.
Oh, it
she
was
does
negative.
not
Negative,
have
yeah.
it. Was arthritis.
That's wonderful.
Which is really great. So she has to deal with that. She does her exercise.
You can deal with anything.
Right.
isn't it?
Right.
You know, there's a T-shirt that says, "You can't scare me. I've had cancer."
That's right.
And you know, so I keep
Yeah.
that in my mind too. How about has anyone been lost in your study?
No.
No. That's right. That's wonderful. I think. All right. From your experience and from your study, what would you like to tell our audience about breast cancer, life after breast cancer?
Well, I would say that the biggest thing that we've learned probably is that people do change. They make changes. They experience a period of being shocked initially, and one woman said, life stops during treatment, and I think that is probably pretty
does.
true, because people can't really concentrate on a lot besides just going to your appointments, getting through life, etc. But then afterwards, I think there's as I said before, it's a little turbulent for a while as people adjust to, you know, some of the side effects. But I'd say people do really well. They decide what's important. Emotionally. Many get closer with their families,
Yes.
spend more time with their families, or spend time doing what they feel they want to do, taking better care of themselves. I would say people are on alert. There is worry. I think we
Yes.
know that.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, 25 years, I still worry, you know,
Right.
before the mammogram.
Every mammogram,
We
yeah.
all worry, but it's not like they think about it every day. Let's see, what else do I want to say? Yeah, I think those are the changes. I think people. I think Cathy's recognized, especially in her office, some of the health changes that people are
Yes.
making in terms of better eating, nutrition. Many women really get into
Right.
looking at their nutrition.
Very healthy dietary choices. We want healthy protein. They'll eat more vegetables and fruits and exercise modifications. Although, as Ellen said, some of the women were runners before and now they might be walking for exercise. But most of the women are doing exercise. And they also are very aware of the need to keep their stress level down.
Right.
That's true.
So,
How much do you think stress actually, I mean, nobody knows for sure how much, but do you think it impacts developing these diseases? I mean, I know that I've talked to so many women who are friends of mine who went through just extreme stress 6-8 months before they were diagnosed.
Right.
Well, the one thing I think we can say is stress affects the immune system.
Right.
Correct.
So there
Correct.
could be a connection. I asked my physician at the time, don't you think stress, there's no data on that.
Right. There isn't.
But I think keeping the stress down, definitely.
Just because that affects you altogether.
Correct.
Altogether. All right, we only have about 2 more minutes. So I want to ask you, what one thing would you like to tell women here at Breast Cancer Awareness Month to do, to be sure to do?
Well, please get your mammograms. And consider a breast exam from your clinician, your medical clinician. I think that's very important.
Because breast cancer, if it's detected early, it can certainly be a much easier
Yes.
ride for the
Yes.
patient.
And don't let fear get in the way of having that mammogram,
Yeah.
because waiting is not a good thing.
I thank you both for being on
Thank
this
you.
show.
Thank
Good luck
you.
with your book.
Thank
I
you.
hope everything is that you're real successful with that, since I'm one of the people in your book. I do appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. Please remember to do self-exams and to make an appointment for your annual mammogram. Early detection saves lives. My next show will feature Natural Bridge of Virginia. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.